What the Navajo elders saw in the desert, that they refused to talk about until death. There is something you have never said aloud, not because you could not find the words, but because saying it would make it real, and you have survived this long by keeping certain things quiet, tucked beneath the smile, beneath the steady voice, beneath the version of yourself you offer the world before you offer it to the mirror. Pause. You have been tired in a way that sleep does not reach, not the tiredness that comes from hard work. That kind you know how to carry, you have carried it your whole life and called it living. This is something different, something that has taken up residence inside your chest and does not leave when the weekend comes, does not leave when the obligations finally go quiet. This tiredness is still there in the morning before the day has asked a single thing of you. Pause. The elders of the Navajo did not speak of certain things until they were very old, not because those things were shameful, but because the desert teaches patience before it teaches truth. And the truth I am about to speak to you has waited long enough. Pause. You are not exhausted by life. You are exhausted by people. Pause. Sit with that. Do not rush past it the way you rush past most things that are true about you. Let it be exactly what it is, the thing you have felt in your bones for years but could never name, because naming it felt like a betrayal of everyone you love. Nothing is broken in you. What is in you has simply been asked to carry more than was ever meant to be carried by one person. Pause. You love the morning before anyone else is awake, not because you're selfish, because in those quiet hours, when the house is still and the world has not yet begun presenting you with its needs, you finally belong to yourself again. There is a version of you that lives in those early hours that almost no one else has ever met, quieter, more genuinely at ease. And you protect those hours with a fierceness that surprises even you, because somewhere deep in you, you understand they are the only hours in the day that are entirely yours. Pause. You know the feeling I am describing, the way your shoulders rise just slightly before certain voices reach you, before they have even walked through the door. Your body already knows. Your body has been keeping score long before your mind was willing to look at the numbers. That rising of the shoulders is not anxiety. That is your nervous system, which has never once lied to you, recognizing what your heart has been too generous to acknowledge. Pause. There are people in your life who leave you emptier than they found you. You noticed this a long time ago, but you named it something else. You called it a hard week. You called it your own impatience, your own failure to have more to give. You turned the weight that someone else placed on you into evidence of your own inadequacy, and in doing so, without meaning to, you gave them permission to place it there again. Pause. The Lakota have a word for the silence after someone leaves your home. The silence that is not empty, but full of your own air returning to you, full of relief. That silence, you have felt it. And then, almost in the same breath, you felt guilty for feeling it, because relief seemed like a confession, like proof of something cold inside you that you had been hoping no one would find. But the elder sees clearly what you have been afraid to see. Relief is not a sin. Relief is not the opposite of love. Relief is your body finally exhaling after holding its breath for 3 hours. The guilt that follows the relief is not wisdom. That guilt is the voice of every person who ever needed you to be unlimited. It is not the voice of truth. Pause. You have given people so much of yourself. You gave them your afternoons, your sleep, the quiet hours you kept promising yourself were coming. You gave them the version of you that costs the most to summon, the patient version, the strong version, the one who holds it together when everything is falling and does not let the weight show because the weight was never supposed to show. And after all that given, you would come home to yourself, and you were less than you were before. Not from age, not from illness, from being slowly, quietly emptied by hands that reached for you with genuine love, and did not notice they were drawing from a source that had a limit. Pause. There is a canyon in the Navajo land that looks different at sunrise than at midday. At sunrise, the walls glow and breathe, the light find in every ridge and hollow, the whole place opening like something alive. By midday, that same canyon has been bleached flat by a sun that takes without asking, that gives no thought to what its presence costs. You have been that canyon. You have given your best light to people who arrived at midday and never once wondered what you looked like at dawn. Pause. I see the way you smile when you are not all right. The practice smile, the one built across decades until it arrived faster than the truth. The one that reassures everyone else while you carry something alone that should not be carried alone. I see how long you have been standing in that light, and I see the hollow feeling that follows a long conversation where not one question was asked about your life. You have tried to explain that feeling and found no words that did not make you sound ungrateful, because the people who leave you hollow rarely believe they are doing it. They think they are simply present. What they are really doing is drawing from a well without ever stopping to ask how deep it still runs. Pause. You have felt the exact moment when you had nothing left. Mid-sentence, mid a conversation that had been going for 40 minutes entirely about someone else's life. And you stayed. You listened. And somewhere inside you, something quiet closed a door. Not in anger, simply the way a body conserves heat when the temperature becomes serious. Closing what does not need to remain open for the essential things to survive. That door was not closing on love, it was closing on depletion. And there is a vast, important difference between those two things that you have spent years collapsing into one. Pause. The elders described what they saw in the language of the land, because the land does not lie. Pause. There is a kind of person who is always in a storm, not because their life is harder than anyone else's, but because the storm is what keeps people close. And the person who has discovered, consciously or not, that crisis is the surest way to hold people near will always find one. They arrive with the energy of weather. The room changes when they enter it. And you, because you are kind, because you cannot bear to watch someone cold, you open your door. Every time. You have opened it so many times that it no longer fully closes. The wind moves freely now through rooms that used to be yours. Pause. The elders called this person the dry season wind. Not because they meant harm. The dry season wind does not mean to pull moisture from the earth. It is simply its nature. But the earth must still protect what it cannot afford to lose. It grows roots deep, conserves what is essential, and accepts that the wind will do what the wind does, while choosing not to be undone by it. Pause. Then there is the one whose love is real. You have felt it, you do not doubt it, but whose love has an appetite. It needs feeding constantly. It needs your reassurance that they are worthy again. Your confirmation that you are not leaving again. Each reassurance metabolizes quickly, leaving hunger where there was briefly fullness. And you give it every time, because your heart will not let you be the one who withholds. This is one of the most luminous things about you. It is also the mechanism of your depletion. The Apache say that even the most generous river runs dry if the rains do not come back. The person who draws from you and brings no rain does not know they are the drought. They have always had you. Pause. And then there's the slow cold. This one has been with you a long time. They are not cruel. There is no incident you could name. They simply diminish. Your excitement, your ideas, the things you were about to say before a look or a sound in the throat told you that what you are feeling is not quite as significant as you believe. And because it is never stated, you cannot address it. Over time, quietly, you stopped sharing certain things with them, the way a plant stops reaching toward a window that gives no light. You started editing yourself before you opened your mouth. You made yourself smaller, and did it so gradually that you may have forgotten the smaller version is not the real one. Pause. The Cherokee call this the slow cold, not the sharp cold that announces itself and that you can dress against. The cold that settles over many seasons until you wake one morning and discover the soil beneath you has hardened, that nothing has grown in a very long time. The elder needs you to understand. Nothing is wrong with you. The soil was wrong. You were the right seed in the wrong ground. Pause. One more, because sometimes the person who empties us is not a villain. Sometimes they are someone deeply wounded, someone who learned early that love was uncertain and had to be taken while available. And you, because you see the wound, stay. Because you believe that if you love them enough, the wound will finally close. But a wound that belongs to another person is not yours to close. No matter how tender your hands, no matter how long you hold them, the desert does not try to heal the rock that split its canyon. The desert only decides what will grow in the space that remains. Pause. You have poured yourself into spaces that were not yours to fill, for so long, with such faithfulness, and the elder is not here to tell you it was wrong. It came from the deepest, most luminous part of who you are. But even the most generous land must eventually be allowed to rest. Pause. You are allowed to protect yourself, not someday, now, as you are, with no explanation owed to anyone. Pause. The Navajo word for the one who guards their inner fire, who knows which wood to let in and which to leave outside, that word does not mean selfish. Selfish is the taking of what belongs to someone else. Protecting what is yours has never been selfishness. It is the oldest form of stewardship. Pause. You have confused love with availability. You were taught, in the consequences that followed when you were unavailable, in the expressions that greeted your need for space, that to love someone is to always be reachable, always answerable, always present in the shape they need, not in the shape you can honestly afford. And you learned that lesson completely. You have been reachable your entire life, and the reachability has cost you more than you have ever said aloud. Pause. But I have watched elders love deeply while protecting deeply. I have watched them hold real warmth for someone and still say, "Not today. I'm holding something I cannot put down right now. I will be here tomorrow, but not today." And the love survived that limit completely intact, because real love does not require the dissolution of the person who holds it. Real love does not say, "Prove that I matter by becoming less of yourself." Pause. Loving someone and giving them everything are not the same thing. Caring for someone and caring their whole life are not the same thing. Being loyal and disappearing into someone else's need are not the same thing. These two truths can live side by side without destroying each other. I love you, and I cannot give you this right now. Both whole, both complete, neither one an apology. The person who taught you that love required you to be without limit taught you something that served them, not something that was ever the truth of what love is. Pause. A fire tended correctly will last through any night. A fire given everything at once burns brilliant and brief, and then there is nothing. Not warmth, not coals, only the cold that follows the burning. You have been burning yourself for other people's warmth for long enough. I am not asking you to stop being warm. I am asking you to tend yourself with the same deliberate care you have always given to everyone else. Pause. Your worth arrived before the first person ever needed anything from you, before you learned to be useful, before you discovered that giving was the surest way to be loved. It arrived with you, complete, requiring nothing to be proved and no one's acknowledgement to be real. It cannot be given away, though you have tried. It cannot be earned by staying when you should go. It cannot be demonstrated by how much you're willing to endure. Your worth is not a debt you're paying. It never was. There was never anything to repay. Pause. There is something the Lakota elders did when the cold grew sharp and the season turned lean. They gathered what was essential and released what would not survive the winter. Not with grief, with the quiet wisdom of people who understood that survival is its own kind of love. You are in a winter right now, not outside, inside, and it is time to gather what is essential. Your peace is essential. Your stillness is essential. The quiet inside you that expands when certain people leave the room. That is not coldness. That is your essential self exhaling. It is worth building toward. It is worth protecting with the same seriousness you have always protected the people you love. Pause. Let me take you somewhere now. Pause. The desert at midnight. No wind, no sound but the deep settling of the earth releasing the heat it has held since morning. The stars here are not distant. They are close, each one a fixed point in a dark that has no bottom. They are the oldest witnesses. They have watched every fire lit on this land, every grief, every moment a person, bone-tired and finally honest with themselves, made the quiet decision to stop giving themselves away. Pause. Picture someone sitting by a low fire, not young, past the middle of their life, hair gone silver, hands that understand what they have carried, a face that has learned to keep its own counsel. This person has made a decision tonight. No ceremony, no announcement, no one else here to witness it. Just a decision made in the honest dark beside a fire burning low and real. The decision is this. From here forward, I tend my own fire first. Pause, and something in them released. Something that had been held tight for years let go. A shoulder, a place behind the sternum where unexpressed things accumulate. Released. The way a breath lets go that has been held so long the holding stopped feeling like holding. Finally dropping. Finally resting. Pause. This is what the final season looks like when it is chosen wisely. Not isolation. Not the hardening of everything soft into armor. It looks like mornings where the first feeling is not already obligation, where the first hour is genuinely yours. It looks like a home that feels like rest, where you walk in and your body says, safe. It looks like conversations you choose because you genuinely want them, people you move toward because moving toward them fills you. Pause. The eagle does not nest with birds that peck its feathers and call it affection. The eagle chooses the high rock, the clean wind, the place where the view is long and nothing asks it to be something other than what it is. Not because it is superior, because it knows, with the certainty of its entire nature, what it was made for. You know what you were made for. Underneath the years of service and the practiced availability and the exhaustion you have normalized, that version of you knows. That is the version worth protecting. Pause. The ones whose fire lasted did not love less. They often loved more. The difference was in what they chose to protect alongside the love. The walk in early light, the hour with no one else's voice in it, the practice that was theirs alone and could not be given away. These were not luxuries. They were the tending of the fire. And the fire, the real, warm, alive presence, was what everyone who loved them actually needed. Not the performance of fine, not the endurance, the fire. Pause. Now the elder grows quiet. The fire has gone low. There are 5 questions, no answers. The silence after each one is the most important part. Pause. First, if no one in your life needed anything from you for one full day, what would your hand reach for first? Pause. Pause. Second, whose voice do you hear in your head when you try to do something only for yourself? And what does that voice say? Pause. Pause. Third, is there someone in your life you love and whose absence you have quietly begun to look forward to? Pause. Pause. Fourth, what would you do differently in the next 7 days if you trusted, without reservation, that your peace was worth protecting? Pause. Pause. Fifth, when you imagine the last season of your life, the quiet one, the slow one, who is sitting by the fire with you, and who, with love and without bitterness, is not? Pause. Pause. The people who remain when you have chosen yourself, those are the real ones. They loved you, not the performance. They will be relieved when the version of you that is no longer running on empty finally shows up, because that version is what they wanted all along. And the ones who leave, let them go with love, not with bitterness, because the people who needed you boundless were people in pain, people who had not yet learned to source themselves, and you cannot teach them that by remaining the source indefinitely. Pause. The fire is almost out now. Just coals, the warm, honest glow of something that has given its light and is resting in what remains. Pause. You are worth seeing in this light. The exhaustion and the love and the long years of giving and the fire that has gone lower than it should. The roots that go deeper than you know. All of it seen clearly, without judgment, with the tenderness of someone who has sat beside enough fires to know that what you are carrying has a name. The name is not failure, and the end of it is not impossible. Pause. Come back to this fire whenever the weight becomes unclear again, whenever you forget what is yours to carry and what was never yours. The fire stays lit for exactly this reason. Pause. The desert will be here. The stars will be here. And in the silence, which is not empty, has never been empty, is the fullest thing in any night. The elder says only this. Pause. You were worth protecting all along. Pause.